on the shores.
When they come here, that's what they're subconsciously and even sometimes consciously how they're going to treat you.
Okay.
Right? Not allowed to record our task force through the city's media. So we have WITN. And for me, that's an issue or problem in regards to transparency.
This bill is so weak that it doesn't even guarantee that the person who is making the complaint against the police get a result.
Said they talked to advocates but couldn't name any advocates. Lied and said the same advocates who are in the room currently were at bill signings, but there was never any major bill signings that we were at. Actually, I've never been to a bill signing.
I've never been to a bill signing. Yeah.
And because of your inaction, you not wanting to truly do anything about police reform, Representative Cook, more blood's going to be on your hand.
Right now, it's not about personalities. It's about bringing justice for all. These are the four individuals we needed to hear from. Thank God we heard from one. It's now in the hands of the Attorney General. We've not heard from the Speaker of the House, and we've not heard from the Attorney General, nor have we heard from the Mayor of the City of Wilmington. Good evening. This is Dr. Curry.
This is Kobe Owens.
And Darby.
And welcome to The Source. Well, it is such a great joy to have both of you back. We've been on this little special assignment going on, and it's good to have y'all back on the set. And I want to start off our show today by just simply saying Happy Father's Day to all of our dads who are out there. I often say there's a difference between a father and a dad. A dad is one who raised you, give you those values and those things that will help to continue your life. So happy Father's Day to all of the dads who are out there. And I have so many great memories of those men who really impact my life and who have given me the things that I need in order to be successful. I think I'm a little successful in life. So I want to say happy Father's Day. And I want to give y'all an opportunity to say anything y'all want to say regarding this whole Father's Day.
Yeah, so happy Father's Day to my stepdad. He has been a great father figure in my life. My uncle who passed away, he is the reason I am who I am today. So happy Father's Day.
I'd like to meet him.
Peace. Well, he passed away.
Oh.
But he is...
She made you a firecracker?
Yes, he did.
Oh, okay.
From a young age, he had me reading like ISIS paper,
Oh.
the destruction of Black civilization. Like he introduced me to a lot of that fire and like who I am and being very confident in my Blackness and who I am as a person. So it was because of a Black man.
Amen.
And I miss him dearly. So happy Father's Day to him. Happy Father's Day to I have a lot of Black male mentors in my community that I always reach out to who give me great advice and different things like that. And my nonprofit, Black Mothers in Power, we started a Black Men's Flower Project Initiative. Okay. So throughout the month of June, we're giving flowers out to Black men who have made impact in our community. Oh. So far, we have blessed 2 men with flowers. Aaron Bass, he's over at Eastside Charter. He got his flowers. And then we also, Kenneth Brown at Kumba Charter Academy. We were able to give them flowers. So throughout the month, we'll be doing a few other people. And I can mention them throughout the month, too.
Okay.
And it's a project because we realized that a lot of men never get flowers and they don't receive them until they can't smell them.
Yeah.
And we want them to feel appreciated and valued while they're here today. So happy Father's Day. Shout out to all the real.
That's excellent because all too often we emphasize on the negative, but that is just great.
Yeah.
What's going on?
I just want to say happy Father's Day to everyone, especially all my mentors. Yeah. I was raised by 2 strong Black women, but I had a lot of men, my uncles, my cousins, who stepped up and showed mentorship to me, and then also the people in the community. But I also want to say take this day to relax, enjoy, practice some self-care. We don't have to carry the weight of the world today. Go out, grill, grab a beer, and have
a beer.
Today.
Yeah.
Or a juice, a free sun. Because
most fathers really, for men, we want to do the grill and everything else. You said just relax, and that's why I decided I'm going to relax.
It is relaxing when you grill. Now
the show go on air, I will be sitting at some famous big time restaurant, making sure I spend all my wife and daughter's money because this day is my day.
Exactly.
Excellent.
Exactly.
Excellent.
So enjoy the time with your family. and just again practice some self-care. We are in a time where Black men's health aren't the best.
Absolutely.
So we want to make sure we do a little something every day.
Good. Well, listen, thanks both of you so much for the opening today. And I want to just share at the end of this show today, we're going to give some updates on the Terez's family. So I ask that you please stay tuned for the whole show because there's some developments that I really want to make sure you are aware of and that we are constantly moving forward. Well, in the city of Wilmington last week, we had a murder where a 37-year-old male was killed. And is it your district or is it adjacent to your district? What's going on? I mean, I know it's in that area where he was killed, and I didn't know if y'all had any more information on it.
Yeah, so the only thing I have is on the first block of East 23rd. So it would be on that borderline of the second and third district. So it would be Councilmember Oliver's district, but I'm impacted too by all the activity that is happening.
There's a whole lot going on in that area, though.
Yeah, it's a lot going on there. So there, within 2 block radius, there are 3 alcohol liquor stores. Right.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of congregation that happens there, and people who are substance abuse issues, mental health issues, and then you have Gordon Street. Gordon Street used to be a tent city where there was a lot of people who were unhoused living there. The city tore that down, blocked it off, but people are still congregating back there and finding homes in that area.
Well, have you had a conversation with your colleague to talk about so we can find out what her strategic plan is, or maybe I need to reach out to her? Have you had a conversation with your colleague?
I would have a conversation. I have no problem having one, but that has not come up. And I have actually reached out several times throughout 2-3 years to try to get me, Councilmember Gray, Councilmember Oliver to come together to talk about North Market Street, but it's just never been successful.
Yeah.
Well, me and Councilmember Gray have, but including Councilmember Oliver, it's just never been successful in doing that.
Because I'm hearing that there may be some desire for her to move up to the state rep area, and as I'm hearing that, I think we need to take care at home first. And I'm not even being smart. I'm being honest, and I'm going to be very mindful of the fact that if you can't take care of home, how are you going to move up? That's interesting. People think that because they're in politics, they can do those things. I'm sorry. Well, you any more on the 37-year-old who has
No, but this was the first of 2 shootings in the same week. There was another shooting over North Side in the 3200 block of North Monroe Street where a 29-year-old was shot.
Oh yeah.
They are alive. I believe they're in stable condition now. They were in serious when it first happened. But again, on this show, we keep track of the shootings that are going on, the violence in the city, and I just hope that we're not on an uptick for this summer.
Right. Well, I just hope that the plan that Chief shared with me start getting inactive stronger because we really have to deal with it. But a lot of it has to do with the city council men and women working with the police to see what will be best for their districts and not trying to move up. I'm gonna keep saying things on purpose because those who are watching me know that I'm saying this directly, that people want to become state representatives and they can't even handle their own district. That's not. What are you gonna do when you get there? Just so you can say that you're a state representative. Let me move on from that and just get into my man Trump. Oh man, he pleaded not guilty to all of that. It's not so. What are y'all thoughts on it? We got 1 minute to just talk about it, but what is y'all thoughts on? It was a nice parade, but you think he's not guilty?
No, I think he's guilty.
You think he's
Do I
guilty?
think he's going to jail now?
I don't care.
He faces 37 felony counts of illegally retaining national defense information, right? These documents that he had, the pictures came out that he had boxes of it just in his bathroom.
Bathroom at a lot of places.
At a lot of places, right? So, again, do I think he's going to see jail time? Do I think he's going to actually be held accountable? No. But again, this is now the second or third federal case that is now going to the next level against the former president.
Well, you still got the January 6th, and you still have our sister over in Georgia who's going to bring charges. As we are understanding, she's definitely going to do it. I think he's going to bring charges for January 6th too, but we have to wait to see that. Well, I just want to make sure that you all are kept up to date that, Donald Trump is still doing Donald Trump. He's still doing all the things that he does, but it is what it is. The last thing I want to just touch in this segment is that we're getting ready to celebrate, even though it's just for the whole month, they're starting to do it now. It's really becoming commercialized. But Juneteenth is starting to really pick up some steam and energy. So we can just spend a couple minutes just talking about that in any way that you all desire.
Yeah, sure. So from I've been aware of Juneteenth for a long time. My uncle, who passed away, we talked about him on the Father's Day segment part, but he introduced me to Juneteenth and was like, this is our Independence Day.
Right.
So I've been protesting 4th of July since a kid, since high school, after my uncle explained to me what the history of Juneteenth was, whereas really was the group of Black folks in Texas, and I think it was Galveston, Texas. Galveston, Texas, and they got the news a little late. That they, that they were emancipated from being enslaved, right? And I think it's even though, because a lot of people argue, why are we celebrating Juneteenth? It wasn't for, like they try to discredit it, but that's like a symbolism, right? It's more, it's not. We all know we weren't free on Juneteenth, June 19th. Like we know that's not our day, but it's a symbolism, just like any other holiday. Is really a symbolism of how, for me, thinking of myself as an African American living in this country. What does that mean? What does that legacy mean? What does that history mean? What is that culture? Because a lot of times I think we get discredited. Oh, y'all don't have culture. Y'all don't have history. Y'all don't have that because of our very complicated history when we think of our Ma'afa, which is our enslavement. And we think of those things when we really have culture.
Absolutely.
We have culture.
Always
We have our own language. We have our own way of
And
being.
even in bondage, we develop a culture.
Yep.
So there's never been a moment when we had not. We came from the royalty. 1619 does not start who we are.
Let's start who we are. So a lot of times you get that argument, and so I'm proud to be a Black person in my American history, and the good and bad, right? And I think Juneteenth is a reflection of that for me. Of like when I think of like freedom and who I am as a Black person, specifically an African American person, just being in this country. So
yeah,
I mean, I love it. I love Juneteenth.
So Juneteenth goes by a few names.
Okay.
It's Freedom Day.
Okay.
It's Emancipation Day. It's Jubilee Day. It's Juneteenth.
Right.
Right. And many people have been celebrating this for years.
Right.
And you kind of
Decades.
saw people jump back into it in 2020, right? And now it has become a federal holiday. You now see it is commercialized, right? But I think we shouldn't lose the opportunity to still educate our youth.
That's right.
On the true meaning of what Juneteenth is and what it means to our culture, to our community, and why we should still come together and fight together as a people. Because even though it is quote unquote Freedom Day, we're not free.
Absolutely.
To this day, we're still fighting for basic rights. We still have people in power who don't view us as equals.
Absolutely.
In their mind, we're still 3/5. So as we continue to celebrate this, I'm excited. This week and weekend has been filled with all different types of events. The Juneteenth parade was yesterday with the festival down at the riverfront as well too. And then tomorrow down in Bridgeville and then Seaford and in Georgetown down in Sussex, there will be 3 amazing, fun Juneteenth celebrations going on. So feel free to stop out if you're down that way. And
it's good
connect
going
with
to the heart of where racism is strong.
Absolutely.
So right into the heart of it.
Absolutely.
I'm glad more people are celebrating it, but I do hate commercialized holidays. Like I'm like anti-holiday, anti-commercial holiday. So that's what the part I'm not liking about it. But I'm glad
But the commercialization of it sometimes help to bring knowledge of it.
Absolutely.
And that's why you got to be, because being a Christian, we know Jesus was not born on December 25th.
Yeah, we know that, right?
But the mere fact that December 25th come around every year, it re-highlights the fact that he was born from our faith.
It's a symbolism piece.
Right. But I kind of, even though they're commercializing and making Santa Claus and all this stuff, I get to tell because my daughter goes to a majority white school, a Christian school, and they understand Juneteenth like me being her father and her mother is really explaining to her, because I had to get up on my research, because a lot of places I've been, a lot of schools I went to, they didn't really talk a lot about, other than Lincoln. At Lincoln, we got a lot of African American history, but all the other schools I went to, it was more or less generalized. So now I'm able to teach my daughter, who is almost becoming like little you, and that as she's learning stuff, she's really getting empowered to start asking more questions to her teachers and others. But that's really what we want, and that's why even sometimes commercializing it helps, because it pushes other people who are really into the fight and into the struggle to be able to get educated more and to be more active in that. So we say Happy Juneteenth, and all month long we're going to try to continue to celebrate it, but then all year long we're going to always make sure we honor the principles of it by the walk that we live. Yes. We'll be right back. And we're back. Well, it's that time of the show that we all enjoy, and we've been missing it for the last couple of weeks, because a couple of weeks you were away on a little vacation or whatever. Not vacation, because you're always working. So.
I was going to say no vacation yet, but that's coming. Okay, but it was more work related stuff. But I know today I want to give a little bit of updates about City Council. We have a resolution or an ordinance that is being proposed for a residence requirement. I mean, letting go of our residence requirement. So currently, if you become an employee for the city of Wilmington, you have to at least live here for 5 years, or if you already live here, then you're good, right? And after those 5 years, you can go live or wherever. It actually used to be longer at one point in time in the past. It was reduced with a lot of politics and people related to each other, a whole story behind that. But today we have city council proposing, and it's being proposed by council president Ernest Congo. Personally, love him dearly. But on a political level, I do not agree with this piece of legislation, right? And I think it's important that we don't give up our residency requirement to make people have to invest in our city. You have to live here. You should be able to, like, it's economics, shop here, kids go to school here, summer camps here, do activities here. If you have people, and we lift that residency requirement, and I think 5 years is too short, but we need something to keep I think our city, people investing into our city, because a lot of times I don't think that's happening once we start hiring people from surrounding states or outside of the city. And then also, I think Wilmington is unique.
Could you look at it? Could you look at it? Oh, you can say something. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm gonna say Wilmington is unique.
Okay.
And I think that a lot of people have a negative perception of Wilmington. So when they come here, that's what they're subconsciously and even sometimes consciously how they're going to treat you.
Okay.
Right. So a lot of times people be like, "Oh, you from Wilmington?" And like, I'm like, "Nah, I'm cool. Like, I'm not walking around gunshots.
Right.
Like, I'm not dodging them walking into my house. Like, everyone isn't living that way or doing crime. Like, we're not that. We're just regular, everyday working people. But this stereotype has been placed on all of us."
Yeah, and it happens a lot of times because of what is reported in the media. But what I want you to do is, have you ever had an opportunity to take a thought of it? If you are a person who's making policy for the city, there should be a requirement for residency. This is just where I am, because I'm 50-50 on this residency piece.
Okay.
I believe that if you are going to make decisions for the city, you ought to be a resident, like police officers. I believe police officers should have a lifetime residency in the city. I believe that all elected officials should have a lifetime residency in the city. But if an accountant comes into town, sometimes I think some of the lack of professionalism is that we hire people who are here who have never been nowhere else, and they cannot give us fresh new ideas. So I think sometimes if you want those who work in the various offices, let them live wherever they want to live. But I think those who are making decisions, the policies, the heads of departments, I believe they should probably live here forever, not just 5 years.
Right, I agree, but this is going to impact heads of department.
Yeah.
This is going to impact police officers,
That's
fire,
already-
like all of that. Like, they're going to be able to come from anywhere and not be required to invest in
I
the
have a
city.
problem with that, and it's only because of the decisions that are made. If you don't know my community, how you gonna make a decision on it?
Yep.
But I think if you come in as an accountant and work in an accounting office, you should not have to live here.
Yeah.
I think that if you're going to work in the personnel department, you should not have to work, because that's why a lot of nepotism and stuff of that nature happens. But I hear you.
Yeah, so I think there's a lot more the city can do in regards to pay rate, recruitment, and marketing. We tell kids from the city of Wilmington, go to college. We'll help get scholarships. We'll celebrate HBCU week. We'll do all these things. But we don't have a track or a line to be able to get them placed into jobs once they're finished in 4 years. So I think there's so much more creative things we can do before we move to this point.
Gotcha.
Right? So that's just my thoughts on the residency requirement, and I hope that it doesn't pass, but it seems like it's going to get the votes that it needs to pass.
Okay.
And I also wanted to give people an update on the task force. I know we talked about the reparations and fees and fines task force not having a lot of support by the city at one point in times in regards to how meetings are held, being recorded, not recorded, using committee room, not using being able to use the committee room. So through a lot of conversation, task force are foilable, right? So they have to be posted that the meetings are happening within 7 days, and anyone should be able to request what happened at this meeting, right? So we know we have that now. We're also allowed to use the committee room now. However, they're saying that we're not allowed to record our task force through the city's media. So we have WITN. And for me, that's an issue or a problem in regards to transparency, access for people to have information to what's going on in these task force. They're saying we can record it, we can go live, but on my little Facebook page versus WITN, who has access to the whole state or the whole county, the whole city, right? It's different. It's very different than for me to go live versus the city to go live, and for people to be able to have access to that information. I just think it's sad that I can listen to a task force in California, but in my own city, I can't, right? And I think that's where the transparency piece comes in for
But
me.
where's the blockage? Why you said that you can't? Is there somebody blocking that from happening?
So their argument is that they're in negotiations with Comcast.
Who is their argument?
The
There.
city council.
Oh, city council.
City council.
Task force.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
That's what I need to do.
Yeah, so the city council, their argument is that they were in contract with Comcast for renewal, and that they They haven't given me. I'm like, can you show me what part of the contract would it be in violation of? No one has given me any real true answers. I think they just. I've been getting a lot of pushback on this, so I
You
think
know,
they don't want to do
the
it.
lawyers for the city of Wilmington are not just for the administration; they're for the city council too. And if I would just suggest that you start pushing the legal department to get you your answers.
Yeah,
And
so
then
that's what I'm doing now.
so push them, and they must get you your answers. If they don't, then we need to expose them.
Yeah, so I'm asking for more information on what
Okay.
part of the contract would be in violations of recording a task force for the public. Like it makes no sense to me. So that's that, and then parking tickets. So that's still a big deal. So we know last year the mayor administration came out with parking reform, which I agree with, right? Really great things. I was like, okay, great, let's do it. However, he made those announcements, but never gave us an ordinance for city council to pass it. So none of those things, he said it, but none of it has been implemented yet because there hasn't been an ordinance presented to city council for us to vote on it for it to happen. So a lot of people think that the tickets have been reduced down to $25 already because it was announced, right? So I think he should have gave us the ordinance first and then made an announcement and said, "Hey, these are the things that we're looking for, and we hope City Council will support them."
So
right?
what you're saying to go ahead.
Not just that, right? Yes, he made the announcement, but city council could have put up their ordinance to change it once he made that announcement.
Oh.
He gave the public a promise
Okay.
that we're going to have lower tickets, and people are still getting $40 tickets, and we haven't seen any action done.
So let me push back real fast. So Shanae, why haven't you put the ordinance in?
Why haven't I put
Yeah,
the ordinance in?
yes.
Because it's going to come from the administration and they hand it off.
No, but but then he's wrong. Then you're wrong. She can't do that.
Any council member could put up an ordinance.
So
there,
go ahead.
there is one that's coming from Maria Cabrera that had originally said 35. That's what they were changing it to. Even though a press release came out from John Rago and Mayor Pazicki that said 25. Oh, we're changing it from 40 to 25. And then you have members of council introduce a resolution to say 35. Because they're trying to pull an okie doke on the citizen.
That's what my next thing is. Now it's 35.
But what has to happen is if we're going to be successful as people who live in the city, as soon as he announced 25,
hold their feet to the
fire. And what should have happened from somebody from city council not giving them a chance to do the okey doke dance by putting $35 there,
right?
It should have been the 25. So what needs to happen is there needs to be a discussion on the floor that the mayor and bring his speech or whatever 25, and then do amendment to it and make sure that they vote on the amendment.
Yeah. So the mayor administration said they will bring the ordinance down to us and we'll vote on it.
But if Maria Cabrera's going to bring one,
she worked directly with the administration on that piece of legislation, right?
So why is it 35?
So it changed to 35 because there are certain city council people who just don't support it, and the administration thinks we're going to lose too much money if we go all the way down to 25.
Oh, they say it.
I don't know. So that's my whole thing.
They could make money by not giving out a bunch of rebates to developers who aren't really developing the city in a way that is affordable, that helps the citizens who are already paying taxes. And this is crazy because they're saying, oh, we're going to lose money, but then they're moving the residency requirement, getting rid of the residency requirement, right? That brings in a whole nother tax base here, since this administration and I guess certain members of council really don't know how to focus in on bringing new revenue sources here so that we're not taxed like crazy, so that we're not saying that, oh, we need to fine people like crazy as a revenue source. But we haven't seen that. And they sit at these meetings, they talk about this stuff, but then they said, oh, well, 35, I'm good with that because 25 is too low. How are we going to balance the budget? It's funny. Y'all have a lot of money going to other departments. Y'all have a lot of contracts out there, TPOs going out for all types of stuff. You're already getting rid of a bunch of city jobs, and now they want to host a job fair, but yet you have this ordinance already. You've been complaining about not being able to fill these positions, but you wait until the day after
to have a job fair.
That's
the residency.
The first job fair. So again, let's talk about the taxes and the way that the people who live here right now shouldn't still be the number one revenue source.
Absolutely. So that's a creativity that the administration and the city council need to be able to come up with some kind of other ways of bringing in revenue without there being fines and fees.
Right. And then I also want to touch on the reparations and fines and fees task force. I'm on both of them. Our work has been postponed because of what is going back and forth with, oh, can we use a committee room? Oh, can we have WITN? It's delaying the work. But I also do believe that people should be there. We've tried to open it up. We tried to send agendas, at least for the reparations task force, to council. and we had a blockade
Do you know
every
how much
time.
let me just say this to those of you who are watching us. Do you know how much exposure that would create, negative exposure that would create for the administration, for the type of things that y'all have to handle?
Yeah.
So do you think they really want that to be out in public? Do you really think they're gonna let that just happen?
I believe in
The
transparency.
invisible hand is always at work.
Oh, I
So
believe it.
the reason why y'all are stopped and we have a problem with Comcast saying you can't do this, and there's going to be no answer that they can't, because there's nothing you can't do that you want to do. I think the holdup really is that they don't want that kind of information, a committee working on this type of injustice or that type of injustice in the city.
My thing is, and I'm going to look it up a little later, I want to see who's on the telecommunications commission for the city.
Oh,
There's always
interesting.
city council members on the telecommunication. I think at one point, or no, that's a different committee. But all those committee members, right, should have access to the contract.
Mhm.
They should know the
To the
WITN.
contract.
Oh, you do?
I'm on
Committees
it.
go-
I have a copy of the
on the
contract.
You're on the
I'm
committee?
on the committee and I have a copy
Okay,
of the
so
contract.
what we'll do is next week, let's put this back on the agenda and let's come back to it because we ran out of her time and I don't want to stop her from doing what she wants to do. But we do need to make sure we come back and see where it is, because again, I think that the work that y'all supposed to be doing on that committee is too powerful for
That's
it not to
why,
be exposed.
yeah. So I'm sad that it's being postponed, but transparency is more important to me than the work getting done, because I think everything should be transparent.
Understand.
I don't believe in just
Okay.
doing stuff to do stuff.
Yes.
No one's doing stuff just to do stuff. I just want to make that clear.
But when we can see it, we'll know that it'll be.
That's what I said.
The
Well, we need
barrier
to
has
see
been
it.
city council.
We
We've
need to see
tried
it.
to open up our meetings,
Okay.
but again, like Shanae said, we have very narrow. Like if I post on my social media, that's not the same as posting
On
in
WITN.
city council.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Different.
why we've done that, why we have had for the reparations task force at least, we've had public members at all of them. For the fines and fees, we've had at least one member of the public at all those meetings as well too. We have tried, but it's a different audience, and there's different ways to hold government entities accountable due to FOIA.
Okay, I got you. So what we want to make sure that we are doing is that we're going to bring that back to us. Okay, what's going on with the mobile showers? I know you had that in your.
Yes. So starting last week, this is another issue I'm having too, but starting in the beginning of this month, we had the first mobile shower to come to the city of Wilmington. This is a trailer. 1-in-7B is the organization. They're coming and they're going to have a few stops in Wilmington to be able to provide showers, toilet, and laundry services to people who are unhoused. So it was a very successful day. We were able to get in contact and provide resources to people who really needed it. A shower can really make a difference.
Oh, most definitely.
Right? In a person's life, and being able to go to work or be able to find work or feel like, you feel better, you do better sometimes,
Mhm.
right? Like that whole affirmation or thought. But one thing I'm having an issue with now with the mayor administration, they called 1-in-7B and told them not to come to my location, which is on Market Street.
Why?
So they said all locations need to go through the administration before they can come back to my location, right? So I think this is another tactic to stop the work that is being done in the
Why?
district. I am working on the why now, so I got in contact with the administration. I'm waiting for an answer back to why my location, which needs it, that Gordon Street, that 23rd, 24th Street, that North Market Street area, that line between the 2nd and 3rd District, we need those services there. And to prevent those services from being there, just because you have an issue with me is an issue or problem.
Okay, I got you.
So that's the mobile shower. So I want to continue that. We have dates for the rest of the summer. We want them to come every 3 weeks. We're also that building that's right there. I'm looking to provide wraparound services. So I've been working with the person who manages that building to get different services in there, kind of creating like a community safe house
Gotcha.
for people who with mental health, substance abuse, or unhoused issues or challenges, to give them services right there in that area. What better way than to try to clean up a block, as they call it, than to provide services for people who need them,
Gotcha. Yeah.
right? Because they're about to start working on North Market Street. Like conversations are starting to ramp up, and what they're going to do is they want to clean sweep that area out. And I believe that the area does need a change, right? But I don't want to just move people out without providing them with services, because all they're going to do is relocate to another area, right? How do we provide some people who want it or who needs it, don't have access to it, to those services? So for me, that's what that's about, and I don't understand why the mobile shower can't be in North Wilmington yet at this point, where we are today.
Mhm.
And then I think that is it for my segment. I can move my other stuff to next week.
Yeah.
But
So you can just introduce them.
yeah, so I'm going to talk about the presidential nomination for Cornel West. I think he has announced that he wanted to run for president, so kind of having that conversation. And then just to give some updates on the NAACP with the national and with the state and local branch. So those things I can hit on next week in the beginning
And
of
I'm
my
very
segment.
interested in both of those topics. So what we'll do is we'll make sure that we bring them up give you enough time to make sure you hit it, because you have some good stuff, and it's kind of difficult to get your stuff in your little segment. But we
Yeah.
appreciate what you bring to the table. But both of them, we will make sure we bring them back next week.
Yeah.
And with any other new stuff you have updates, and we'll find the time. In fact, I may even put that in one of my time so that we can make sure we do that. Well, I really want to thank Sister Sinead for that group, and don't forget, please, after we get finished at the end of the last segment of the day, we are going to deal with the Therese family and the update of that. When we come back, we're going to allow the Kobe Corner to take place, and we have some updates, two different bills that we want to make sure updates on HB 99 and 220, and then we want to do an update on 205 and 206, which are the police bills. And I won't be on those segments. We have a guest who's going to come because they threw me off set, but that's all right. I'm coming back right after that set is over, and we're going to talk about the Therese family. We'll be right back.
And we're back. Look, we switched things up a little bit, but I wanted to bring on my coworker, my friend, my fellow good troublemaker, Cheyenne Miller. Go ahead and introduce yourself real quick.
Hi, I'm Cheyenne Miller.
That's it?
That's it.
Okay.
The Homes Campaign and the Metropolitan Wilmington Urban League. What else?
I don't know.
Okay.
Fair policing? I don't know.
Okay.
So just a quick update. I wanted to talk about HB 99 and 220. The Green Amendment is HB 220. It passed out of committee after being worked on for the last year and a half. I want to give a shout out to Representative Medina Wilson Anton for sponsoring it, for championing it. And also I want to give a shout out to Anissa, who has been on the ground mobilizing people, bringing awareness to this bill. It's a constitutional amendment for clean air and clean water. And you can hold the government accountable if those rights are violated. So it passed out of committee. It will be heard on the floor hopefully soon, and then it will go over to the Senate. So that is huge. They're doing a lot of stuff with environmental justice. But the reason why I have a friend here today is because we want to talk about two bills that this show kind of came together on. Talking about Leopold and police brutality. Almost 2 years ago, me, Pastor Curry, and Jay Street, Councilman Jay Street, sat down at this table and started talking about what we needed to see here in the state when it came to police reform. And that number one driver was Leopold. We called on the Delaware General Assembly to change Leopold to create more transparency and accountability for officers who break the law. Well, I just want to say they have changed Leopold, but all they changed was the name. They had two bills that recently passed out of committee that after the bill sponsor berated advocates, people who've been impacted by police brutality, families of victims of police brutality, passed two bills, HB 205 and 206, out of committee. Cheyenne has been on the forefront of this fight, trying to get changes to Leopold, trying to build more transparency and hold bad officers accountable. So I don't know if you want to start with 205 or if you want to start with 206 first. I'll let you.
Let me start with a reminder that Leopold is the policy that actually dictates whether any of the other police reform policies we have actually matter. So y'all got use of force changes out here. We've changed all these things around use of force. We've changed things around body cameras. We've changed a lot of stuff here in Delaware. But if you can't change the law enforcement officer's Bill of Rights to allow for you to hold an officer accountable when they do something bad, and for you to be able to investigate whether they do something bad, then there really is no point in having access to somebody's video camera, access to what kind of use of force they did or didn't use. What's the point? And so just to start on that point, just remembering why Leopold mattered, this is the fundamental thing that makes it so that if a police officer does the wrong thing, we can or can't hold them accountable. And right now, as the law stands, we cannot. So I'm going to start with HB 205. the one that really makes me mad, that all it really does is change the name of the Law Enforcement Officers Bill of Rights to, what's the acronym? PODPAT?
PODPAT.
Police Officers, what is it? Discipline and Police Accountability and Transparency. This is crazy. This is crazy. It's a police officers, it's due process, accountability, and transparency. The concern that we have about HB 205 really comes down to the fact that it does not change anything about accountability, and it does not create real transparency. What we've been asking for the last 3 years is essentially that if we are going to have police reform, you make it so that the police do not get to investigate themselves, and that there is an outside independent entity of community members that can start to look into police. HB 205 does not do that. HB 205 does not allow for a shift there. All it does is further entrench the ability of the police to be able to investigate themselves, and the ability for the police to be able to decide what they tell the public, what they tell the person who's making the complaint against them. This bill is so weak that it doesn't even guarantee that the person who is making the complaint against the police get a result of what the investigation came out to be. This bill still allows for the police to investigate themselves, which is the biggest concern when it comes to police transparency, which is the biggest concern when it comes to accountability. Because all I know is, how are you going to investigate yourself and come up with anything that's sustained? It allows for the police to continue to sustain whether or not they did something wrong. And then on top of that, it creates transparency by allowing for the police to essentially put out a report to, what do they call it? The
Narratives.
These narratives that say, okay, if they did something serious, sexual assault, shooting someone, that they can send a narrative of what happened in the investigation and the results over to the Criminal Justice Council, which is made up mostly of police, or over to, what is it called currently? The Council on Police Training, yes, which is going to be renamed to something called POST.
Yes.
Like, come on now. Which is also majority police. So we don't get no changes on this.
Exactly. So I just want to give a little more background about Leah Board, right? There's currently 15 other states that have Leah Board. Leah Board offers cool-off periods for when you can be interviewed regarding misconduct or allegation, right? That means there has to be a certain window. You cannot even be interviewed. That gives you time to collect yourself, see what's going on. If they catch you red-handed murdering someone as a civilian, guess what? You're going to be interrogated that night, that day, right? Leah Board says, no, you can't do that.
As a police officer.
As a police officer. Yep. Leah Board also provides officers, their attorneys, their union reps, prior access to every piece of evidence, including witness statements, videos, audio recordings, photos, anything collected during the investigation before the officer is even interviewed. Yep. Well, if I know everything you have on me, that's going to give me time to create a story to talk around it.
Yep.
Officers are shielded from interview tactics that they used on civilians, right? They can't have lengthy interrogation periods. They can't use threatening questions and all this other stuff, make promises for cooperation. Nope. You can't do that with Leah Board. So why is it, right, when we talk about due process, I believe in due process, but why is it that that's not due process? Yeah. Either make everyone else have the same standards, or make the police have the same standards of the public that they're supposed to be serving. Yeah. When we sat through that committee hearing, I just want to bring one thing up. The sponsors, members of the Legislative Black Caucus, said they talked to advocates but couldn't name any advocates. Lied and said the same advocates who are in the room currently were at bill signings, but there was never any major bill signings that we were at. Actually, I've never been to a bill signing.
I've never been to a bill signing there, actually.
Especially for police. Then they had their backup there. Their backup was chiefs of police, a mayor from a city, the second largest city, Dover, who sits on the Council of Police Training, who says, oh, my department does not have any allegations against him. What are you talking about? The officer, Officer Weber, who beat a man, kicked a man in his face down in Dover, then left, got a job, got more money, then killed Anton Black in Maryland was under your department.
Yep.
Your department just shot another person 3 days after you testified. Every person who testified in favor of this was white. And every person who testified against this was black.
Make it make sense.
Make it make sense. And then I want to get to the committee chair. Representative Franklin Cook. You sat there, you felt good. Your crocodile tears were gone because you made your friends happy. You wanted to say when the rubber hit the road, the advocates were nowhere to be found over the last 3 years. But yet it was advocates who were on your sham of a task force who had to call you out for not doing nothing, for slow walking the process. Then you run, you go jump on other shows and everything and say, oh, we're fighting for the hardest and the Leah board reform that has the most teeth. I say different. This shows different. This shows that the only color you care about is blue. See, you wanted to berate advocates down at Leg Hall. I hope you feel good. You want a cookie? But see, here's the thing. We won't forget that.
Nope.
I know I'm going to keep organizing.
Yep.
And because of your inaction, you not wanting to truly do anything about police reform, Representative Cook, more blood's going to be on your hand. You said there's bad doctors, there's bad nurses, there's bad teachers, there's bad principals. When you had your little tyrant down there. Well, here's the thing. You're absolutely correct when it comes to that. But a teacher does not have a gun. A teacher is not authorized by the government to carry a firearm on them. They're not authorized to execute someone. And when something does bad happen, guess what? They're held accountable. Not by other teachers. You don't see teachers investigating teachers. There's members outside of that profession who investigate them. So you made our point for us.
Yep.
It should be people outside investigating because time and time again, y'all have shown y'all can't hold yourselves accountable.
And be honest, we got to go back to this whole narrative that's being put out that advocates were not around the table or were around the table, excuse me.
Frank, you sat at our table.
That's not.
You was mad.
It's a lie. That's a whole lie. Over the last
you can't
6
say
months,
who wasn't there.
Over the last 6 months, we have been going to Black Caucus members as advocates, asking, what are we going to see on Leah board this year? Here's some suggestions we have of things that we can do to reform Leah board. Here's what the community is asking for. And every time we would go, it's, oh, I don't want to talk about Leah board, or hey, I don't know anything that's going on with Leah board, or hey, nothing's happening. What are you talking about? And yet then within less of a week, a bill is introduced and then put in a committee to rush it through. And when advocates come out and say, hey, we weren't consulted on this, when we've been asking you for the last 6 months what bill you're going to be putting up, you want to say, oh, you have been consulted. You have been around the table. Now, if we were at the table, we would have been like, nah, this ain't it. This ain't the bill. If we were at the table, we would have not been saying, hey, we're concerned. Send this over to the community. Let the community have some input because this is not it. And yet the lie that's being pushed by bill sponsors is that we were at the table. We may have been at the table in 2020, 2021, and 2022 when Senator Tizzy Lockman was pulling us together as advocates to talk to us about what the bill is. At least
y'all wouldn't work with Tizzy.
Y'all would not work with Tizzy when SB 149 came out. Y'all would not allow to put your name on that bill and support Tizzy when that bill came out. Now this bill has come out, and if you look at it, HB 205, HB 206, they have the opposite sponsors on it than what Tizzy had when it came to Black Caucus. All the Black Caucus members that did not sign on to Tizzy Lockman's bill, SB 149, in what was it, 2021, when she put that bill out? are all now signed on to a bill that does even less than what hers did. Make it make sense. Black Caucus actually sat there and decided not to support their own when this came out, and then rushed a bill out and expected for everyone to come and be okay with it when they didn't consult the community, and then went on record in a committee and lied and said that advocates were the ones that were trying to slow things down. Advocates were at the table, and because it wasn't perfect for advocates, they didn't want to support it. It's a lie.
We've sat down with just about everyone. We've said draft legislation, we've sent amendments, we've sent talking points, we've sent just negotiating points, we sent what we believe needs to be changed. And it's not just, just some community advocates. We have attorneys. The probably the best person on this issue who's worked in multiple other states is Carlton Mares from the Delaware NAACP. We brought him in, and he worked with Senator Lockman because he's worked in other states on reforming Leah Board or eliminating Leah Board and making it more possible for accountability and transparency. But yet,
they didn't want it.
They didn't want it. Actually, the chair of the Public Safety Committee, Representative Franklin Cook, got on a Zoom with Carlton, since you want to say no advocate ever reached out to you. You got on a Zoom, and when he said Leah Board, you yelled at him, berated him, because you thought he said Leah Board with a D. Don't forget about that. You said you didn't want to talk to us anymore because you know what needs to be done as a black man who was harassed in his own police department, but then also said the community just complains too much. That doesn't sound right.
Talk about 206.
We only have a few seconds left.
Yeah.
206 is post. They're changing the Council on Police Training, who hasn't done their job, who still hasn't had their second public member appointed to it by the governor. Post is now going to be called Post, Police Officer Standard and Training. And what it's supposed to do is have the ability to set the new standards for policing in the state of Delaware. But yet, they still haven't even sent out a directive about body-worn cameras and requiring all officers to wear it, and what's the policy when you don't.
And
they've had 2 years to do that.
The majority of the people that on this thing are police.
Majority.
Especially if you include the appointments of the individuals who are serving. For example, the chair of the public safety it's Frank Cook. He's a former police officer. So again, we set police to be the ones who are holding themselves accountable, setting their own standards, investigating themselves. Disappointing. And Black Caucus is putting a stamp on it. Let's just be straight. Black Caucus is putting a stamp on this for our community. It's disappointing.
We've sent amendments to these bills to different members of the General Assembly. We hope that they at least amend this bill to make it somewhat better. But as it stands right now, it's not a bill that brings transparency. This bill doesn't even address sexual harassment.
Yep. In between officers.
In between officers. Which we've known has happened, especially in the Wilmington department recently. So, we're asking, take a look at those recommendations. Do something for the community for once. And Frank, this shouldn't be personal. This should be about serving the community and making sure everyone feels safe in their skin. Because at the end of the day, I love being black, but it's a little dangerous. So let's make it safer for everyone. When we come back, you'll hear from Pastor Curry giving an update on the Torres family and what's going on with that situation. We'll be back.
And we're back. We're going to use this segment of our Source with God every week to make sure that we continue to keep you updated on the various events and responses that we received. We wanted to go back to our regular broadcasting so that you will be able to get all the news from around in and around the country. But this segment will be specifically designated for the Torres family until we get to the bottom of it. People have asked, Curry, are you going to really have the patience to be able to deal with this? Yes, this is not a sprint. This is a marathon. And all too often in our community, we look for the hype, and they see us with the hype, and then they say, just settle down. They will get over it. That will not happen. We will wait. Sometimes, in order to get justice, we're going to need the time. And while we don't always get justice with time, we're going to prove the research. We might not get it. We might. But what I want to make sure is that we are not moving too fast. We're not adding too many people too quickly, and not giving people an opportunity to respond. There were 4 individuals that we said in the Therese case that we wanted to respond. But before I speak to them, I want you to see and be refreshed on why we're here. After several months of harassment, of words that were hurtful and painful to the Therese's family, it was suggested by the Wilmington Police Department that maybe you should get it on video. It's a disgrace that we have to prove ourselves all the time. But that was one of the good advices that was given to the Therese's family by a member of the Wilmington Police Department. So she went out and purchased a home video camera, or whatever we call this thing, Ring, I believe it is. And it was after several months of going through the harassment, being called names, that this was caught on camera. And she didn't know that they had a camera. She saw it there. She didn't see it light up, which she didn't know we can get the light turned off. So she assumed that it did not work. Remember, this is why it caught so many attention. Look at this.
Oh, look. You have someone else living there. Oh, my God. Look at that. The city will be notified tomorrow, you piece of shit.
That's why we are here today. We were able to really capture the poison and the hatred that this woman held in her heart against this African American and Latino family who moved into her neighborhood. Words like rodent, words like piece of, you heard the word, I don't use that language, was used to describe them. It was the adjectives that were used to describe them. And I want to talk about some of the responses I received from some, but I said we needed responses from 4 people. We will not rest until we have a response from all 4 entities. The first person was from the chief of police. We said we needed to hear from you because I felt there were some missteps as it relates to the Therese's family going through the harassment in the 8th district. We did hear from the chief of police. He did respond, and his response is very simple. Those things that need to be trained in his department for the missteps that they've made, it will be corrected. He also shared that they have turned over to the Attorney General all of their evidence, which supports the fact that there has been true harassment. Just looking at the tape, this is not the only time they were harassed. There were some who said, well, this is one time. It was the one time of many different occasions, but this is the only time we were able to record. This started in February 16, 23, excuse me. So this has been going on, and they finally got it on tape, and that's why we got here today. Thank you to the chief of police of Wilmington for responding. We now know it's out of your hands. It's now in the hands of the Attorney General, which is the second person that we felt needed to respond and share with us where she is as it relates to this case. We're not going anywhere. We're very much organized. Where are you, Attorney General? Why haven't we heard from you? I'm under the understanding that whenever there is an investigation, you all do not talk. Great. We'll wait around until you get to the end of your investigation. The third person I shared that needed to respond and have not responded was the Speaker of the House. Pete, where are you? Why haven't you responded? I'm hearing through the grapevine that you may not be running for Speaker of the House anymore. That has nothing to do with your legacy. Do you believe that racism should play a role in who you are and the people that you represent? You represent the whole Democratic Party as the Speaker of the House. Are you going to permit this to continue? I need a response. You cannot say you have no idea what I'm talking about. I've sent you everything we have. I've sent you text message after text message, and you have not responded. But I'm going to continue to hold on to my record of it so that you will know that we are serious about what we're doing. The third person, beyond the Speaker of the House that we wanted to hear from, the fourth person rather, beyond the Speaker of the House, is the mayor of the city of Wilmington. Mayor Brzezicki, we want to hear from you. I know you personally did not go out and do that investigation and have somebody come in the middle of the night to examine things that didn't need to be and create more harassment, but it was your department. And as the head of the department, as the head of the city, it's the Boykins report to you. We, the African American community and the Latino community, need to hear from you. Was this appropriate? If it wasn't, what measures are being put in place to ensure no other African American families or Latino families, people of minority, will be harassed to this level? All the things they ask and all the questions they ask could have been done without even coming out. But the whole mere fact of having the van to go and the city is there knocking on the door, it shows intimidation. You owe us an explanation. So, Mr. Mayor, we are waiting for you to respond. And again, you cannot say, I know nothing about it. I've emailed, I'll text you as well, your personal cell phone. I have that number. You know I have that number because I've communicated with you. And we've not always had this controversial relationship that we have right now. But right now, it's not about personalities. It's about bringing justice for all. These are the four individuals we needed to hear from. Thank God we heard from one. It's now in the hands of the Attorney General. We've not heard from the Speaker of the House, and we've not heard from the Attorney General, nor have we heard from the Mayor of the city of Wilmington. We will wait a little bit longer to ensure that we exude the appropriate tolerance and time and patience while we are getting to the end of this. The next thing I wanted to share is that many people have asked, well, Curry, what are the charges? What are you looking for the charges to be? We laid that out in our last show. The charge is number one, discrimination and racism. Listen, I know that we can play on the word racism, but the ism is the power. This woman has a lot of power, which means she can possess racism. And she was able to move people to put acts against the Therese family. Her power was so strong that the police department one time went into their house and didn't do anything but left out. They would not take reports. Out of 7 times they called the police to come and help them, only 3 times there was a report even filed. That's racism. She has that power. That's the power that she has. That's why we are saying discrimination, harassment, and racism. That's one of them. I mean, that's 2 of them, because harassment is another whole different charge. I laid out what these charges look like as it relates to Delaware law and federal law. The third one was furnishing false information to officials. This has occurred several times to the Wilmington police as well as to the city of Wilmington. She furnished the information, whether it be verbal or written. But I'm sure there are some written things because I'm told there were emails, and under the FOIA Freedom Action Act, we probably will have to make sure we get those emails and text messages that were sent to the city and the city responding to her, because how did the city get out to these people's houses, these people's house? We are not slow concerning the things that we're doing, and we're not confused. We believe that these are the 3 charges that she needs to be charged with. 1, discrimination and racism. 1 charge. 2, harassment. 3, furnishing false information to officials. Now, I've had conversations with several people, and they're saying to me, you know, Curry, number 1, you're a pastor. You are a preacher. You carries the gospel. Where is forgiveness and redemption in this? Let me say this to you. I believe in redemption. I believe in forgiveness. But there is a process for forgiveness. You can't just say, I'm sorry to the Lord without there being a part of the process. The Bible speaks of, if you confess with your mouth, believe in your heart, you will be saved, you will be forgiven. There's a process. You cannot continue to always demand that Black people and Latino people forgive. We are the most forgiving people in the world. Data shows it. We forgive, and continue to move on. But do not bring that up. Where is forgiveness? She has not asked for forgiveness. She's not repented of her wrongdoing. Forgiveness can be extended, but it doesn't mean that you cannot have justice, because there's a grace of God, and then there's the justice of God. And we must not take, as they say, we must not rationalize. In the theological term, rationalization, we should not rationalize and take a piece of the word of God and try to hold it against a people who's trying to get justice. Yes, we believe in forgiveness. And yes, we will forgive her, but we also believe in the justice of God. And this needs to be handled because this was caught on tape. How many other people, and we've heard of other people who have been treated wrong, who have been done wrong. And if all your response is we need to find forgiveness, shame on you. Shame on you. Where was her mercy? Where was her grace during this time when she was being very, very adamant about how she disdained the Therese family? Sure, we can talk about the fact that she had an issue with the Republican who owns the property, but that has nothing to do with the Thereses. And she is smart enough as an attorney who's able to become the attorney for the state, who is able to be a district attorney, to be in the district attorney's office. She's smart enough to know that she cannot hold the Therese family accountable for some dispute she may have had with the owner of the property. Right is right and wrong is wrong. So the first question of where is redemption, where is forgiveness? We will issue forgiveness and redemption. But first you have to confess your sins. And then you have to be able to make sure that it has been appropriately handled by those individuals who are responsible for preserving and protecting the community that we live in. I was also asked, why am I saying racism? Racism deals with power. There's a difference between bigotry and racism. A person who's just bigot, they're just bigot. They ain't got no power. They just don't like black people. This woman has power. This woman is able to move things. And because she can move things and because she has power, we put the ism on it. This is outright racism. One person said to me, why are you using the language of white supremacy? White supremacy is when people believe, white people, that they are the dominant. When she called that man a rodent, it spoke to the heart. You are less than me and should not live with me, should not live in our community. That's white supremacy. Stop believing that white supremacy is only the KKK who wear masks or who wear hoods. No. White supremacy is a mindset that places a person to believe that they are the superior race and everything that is not of their pure blood is less than. I have answered your questions for those of you who asked about the redemption, those of you who asked about forgiveness, those of you who asked why racism. I want to make sure you're clear. We are focused. And we're going to show continuously. I know the News Journal have not written their article yet. I'm sure they will, I hope. We have not gotten the attention from the media. We have a plan to get that. And we plan to use it if justice is not served. But what I want to make sure is that we don't move fast. We don't have a lot of sellouts on the team who can run to this group and that group and say, don't worry about it. We already got this under control. They get ready to make this next move. It's about being strategic, which the God I serve is. And it's about making sure we hold people accountable. We're clear now. We've not heard from the Attorney General. What say you, Attorney General? We've not heard from the Speaker of the House. What say you, Speaker of the House? We've not heard from the Mayor of the City of Wilmington. What say you? Thank you for the time that we've shared together today. This is The Source. I want to say Happy Father's Day to all fathers. What I'm doing now is a representation, a true representation of what fatherhood is all about. A father protects. A father keeps their family together and do not allow those who would prey on them, P-R-E-Y, on them to overtake them. My hat goes off to all fathers, especially to fathers who are Latino and fathers who are African American. You have more to put up with, but you have held your family together. We will not allow the 3 or 4 who may not have done their part to overshadow the good that you, the fathers, have done. Thank you, fathers, across this country, to my Caucasian fathers as well as Latino and African Americans, the fathers at large. Thank you for what you've done. The blood that we have in our bodies is a result of you. And today, we take a moment and honor every father who can hear my voice. Thank you for what you've done. Thank you for who you are. And thank you for holding the gap together. Until the next time we get together, may the Lord God bless you real good. How long was that?
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of The Source. Be sure to tune in next Sunday at 5 p.m.